Hi everyone, so in today's video I'm going to show you some of the new things that's been added in the version 1.8.2.0. So it's the latest one as of now, latest beta, and the key features that's been added, and a lot of people were like waiting for it, and there was a feature called page holdover. So when it allows you to actually use the same fader across multiple pages, or in our case, 2 pages. Okay, so without further ado, I'm going to show you the features that's been added, some of the features that's been added in the latest version 1.8.0. Okay, so first of all, the function is called page holdover. How to switch it on? You have to go to the setup, then you go to the view settings, you go to the playback, and in the playback, you have the option here. It says playback holdover mode. So you double click this, and you have an option default and a 2-page holdover. So by default, it's not going to be switched on. So you have to come here and switch it on. Now, this is how it's going to work. So if you raise the fader now, say on the page 1, you can see the lights are already visible. Now I change to page 2, and you can see that the indication from the page 1 gone down. That shows you that it's still active. And now if you put the fader down, you're actually not going to kill the previous memory like it used to be before. So now you can raise the fader again, and you can run the playback on the second page. So at the moment, this feature is allowing you to run playbacks on the same fader across 2 pages simultaneously. So at the moment, just 2. So, and you will be able to see is the page 1, page 2. So if you change the pages, you will see the active part is always shown on the top. The one that's behind in a holdover, it's showing at the bottom. And also you can notice there's like an arrow showing up. That means you have to push the fader up to be able to control it. So at the moment it's already up. So, and you can see that between the 2 pages you can change, and it will allow you to actually change the page and still control the stuff from 2 pages simultaneously, which is really cool. And I think a lot of people are actually asking for this, and I'm happy to say that we've added it, and it's working. So, and one of the things that I have to tell you about this as well is if you want to kill playbacks that are running in a holdover, so they're in the background stuff, so it's not currently on the active page. If you want to kill them all, what you have to do is you have to press and hold button Alt, so Alt, yeah. And if you hold the button Alt and then you press release, you will be able to kill all the playbacks that are in a holdover. So if I hold Alt and I press release, it kills the playback from the page 1 because I was currently on the page 2. That means that way you can kill everything that's not currently active on your page. So this is one of the things. Also, the same mode works across the playbacks, which are default playbacks. So for example, by default, if you go to the how to set the playbacks with the default, so for example, if I select playback 8, then I press playback window. So at the moment it's been selected. So I can click here on a default Q stack on. So when this one is on, so if I change the page up and there's some other playback is available, because you have the mode two page held over mode, it becomes sort of like a it's not fully locked. You can see it in a way that if there's something on the same playback on the same fader on the other page, you will be able to see it. But if there is nothing on the page above, then the original default one is going to be available. So you can only see it on the pages where there's nothing's been stored, And if there is something that's been stored, then you can have access to the other memory. So what it means is I can run this playback. And if I go to the next page, you can see that this playback is currently from the previous page is on the bottom, so that means it's in a holdover. And this is you can run that one, that memory, and then you can change the page up, and you will be able to see that you have two memories running simultaneously. And if you want to kill the one that's not currently active, so if we go to the first page, we'll hold Alt button, press release, and it kills the memory on that was on the other page. So another thing that's been that works with the page holdover is the fact that if you want to make a macro button that will actually release all held over playback. So instead of holding the Alt and press release, we actually add it into the macro. So if you go to the macro window and you go to the inbuilt macro, you will be able to find the one that says release holdover. So this means this button will release all holdover playbacks. And also, if you've set, in order for you to not getting the playback to be released by mistake, what you need to do is you have to, if you go into the Q stack options, so to triple click on any of your Q stack, and obviously if you go to the advanced and set master effects no, that means if it says no, that means if you press Alt and release, it will not be released because you told it to ignore any of the master commands like release or release alls, etc., etc. Okay. And of course, you have to take into consideration that when you're running the multiple playbacks across the pages, they're also counting towards the free playbacks that you can run simultaneously. So all active queues at the same time. And there's an overall limit of 202 active playbacks or executes at the same time. Another function that's been added in the version 1820 is called page levels. So what are the page levels? It's a really nice and neat feature that allows you, when you're doing, say, touring, it allows you to set the levels of the playbacks to the right, sort of set the positioning of the playbacks or faders to the right level as you wanted them. So, for example, if you have the first song for a particular band, and you want to have, for example, when you're changing to this page, you want to have the front of house wash look to be at full, and then, for example, let's go with the beam tilt, that window, this playback to be on, but it will be dimmed down to the level of, say, 10-15%, and maybe this one, the spot static, will be set at, say, also a really low level. So we can set all of this up. So you can see I set the three different levels, 100%, 20%, and 10%. Now, if I want to make it so next time when I change to this page, I want all the three playbacks to be activated, and also not just simply activated, but activated with a certain level. So this was not possible before. So in order to do this, you have to go to the page button. So when you go to the page button, you have the options here now, new options called save levels. So you have save levels and clear levels. Obviously, you know what they will do. So if you press set levels, the desk is going to say set levels for page 1 is done. So what we need to do is now is we put the faders down. We also need to make sure that we will activate one more option. So triple click on the playback, and then you go to the activate release, and you say activate on playback change on the page change. You say to yes. This memory, say yes. And that memory, yes, sorry. Why, what did I do now? So the reason I did this, that means next time, so you see I'll go to the next page, and as soon as I come back to the previous page, all three memories have been activated, and they've all been activated with the correct levels. Not like in the past with 100%, but it actually remember the level. So it's really good for the touring when you're coming and you need to load a song. It will load it to the right level. Let's say, for example, if you have a playback with a haze or smoke machine, you will be able to set it in correctly to the correct level. As soon as you don't need this anymore, you can easily go to the page window and you press clear levels. So it will clear the levels for you. So next time when you activate it, when you change the page, it may be activated, but you can see no levels have been set because I've removed it. So yes, it's still activated, but there's no level set. So which is also a really cool thing to know. So let's remove that option. I'll say no. We'll say this no, and we'll set that one as no as well. So the other, yeah. So the other option being added as well is we added visualizer models. So what you can do now is this. So if you go to the patch, view this, attach objects, and you press insert, and now you have more options here. So for example, we can insert people. You can see now you've got 3D model of a person there. You can also, if you wanna, you can insert as well a furniture. So when you inserted the furniture, you can insert drum kit, a console, guitar, bass guitar, keyboard, lectern. So if we do lectern, now we can move this one with the Z axis. So in the front of our, say lecture. Okay. And also you can do the drape. So if you go insert, there is another model that's been added as a drape. And in the drape model, you will be able to change the size of this. For example, okay, change the size, say 10 meters by 5 meters. And you can move this thing back. And if you play with the parameters 1, 2, 3, you will be able to make it like sort of more folded, like sort of more straight, etc., etc. So, like for example, if you say 50, you can see it's changing its shape a little bit. So you can play with those parameters, make it sort of a little bit more realistically looking. And yeah, so this the option that's been available now, is being given to to all of you guys. So I've got another model, but I'm still running the alpha version. So we've got we're working on and we're testing more on the importing 3D objects, which is still in the same menu, but you don't have this option. So some of you may have noticed. So when I press this, you have also the model. So I do have a model. You may not have it. You shouldn't have it for now, but then if you're watching this video later on, this option might have already been added. But for time being, we've just added the options as a people, furniture, and a drape. Okay, so yeah, and there we've added another function for the multi-user control. So if you're using different users or in a multi-console environment and you want to have different console user settings for each individual user, I mean, if you know what I'm talking about, I will just show you where to find it. So basically, you will have to, if you go to the setup, view system, view user, you will be able to load settings for your user. So if you set your own user and the current settings you have here, and you're going to load them as a say yes, and then you change the user and you make the different changes and you say load the user settings as well. you actually so you will be able to save the settings per each user separately. To save the settings, you go as usual here, save settings, import settings. But if you're going to save it for each user, the console will save correct the username. So it will be like in MagicQ, it will create a user underscore and the settings name. So then you can have your different settings. So what it means is if you're running, say, you have two users who is using this console, maybe like the person who's going to do in the main stage act, and the second one is just going to be the operator that controls only his stuff. You can set his settings and you can set the settings for the main user. So when you will be changing the user here, the settings in your menu, so I'm talking about the view settings in this menu, will be changing according to the user that you have selected. There's also added some quite few other things here as well. I mean, I won't be able to run through all of them, but basically what you need to do is if you go on our website, if you go to the download section, there is a menu there that gives you access to the software change log, and basically it's a PDF that gives you all the same information I just provided to you with a few more extra options described in details. Like for example, if you're say from US and you're running everything in imperial system, the measurements, so you can actually change it here. So if you go to the Windows and you say you change the units of measurement from metric to imperial, then yeah, you will be able to actually calculate it using the feet and inches. Actually, it's going to be probably UK and US, the two countries that are still using the imperial system. Or again, you can always change it back to the metric and use it like yeah, in metric system. And there's a few other options being added. Let's say if you're running some playbacks, let's say you're running any playbacks, and if you go to the output window and you can select, for example, your active playbacks, if you hold Control and Shift, you will be able to see the values of your attributes in a 16-bit format rather than raw format rather than in 8-bit. I mean, if it was important for you, I mean, you can just remember how to do it. Again, you go to the output window, hold Control Shift, and you will be able to see that like the values of pan and tilt are running in the 16-bit raw format. And also, you've got uh, yeah. So if you're moving now, if you created some speed masters with a group, and for example, you move the group from group 7, for example, to group 12, now the MagicQ actually follows your changes. So if you move group 7 to group 12, and you have a speed master relates to group 7, it will be automatically updated to group 12 because it knows that you actually you move the reference folder to the new place. And yeah, we've got more options added as well in the color tagging now. If you go to the patch window and if you select your heads, and if you want to color tag them and you double click, you have now not just the names but also up to 20 colors, and they all come with a different coloring system. So this is useful, of course, for setting up, for example, if you go to the setup, and in the window, if you set the color tags to be, for example, fixture type, and you go to the layout one, you will be able to see per fixture type is a different coloring system. So again, you can set it up the custom made for yourself. That's a separate conversation about this. And also there's a few other options, like for example, when you go to the setup and if you go to the file managers, etc., it will remember the way you are trying to sort it out, let's say by name or by date. So next time you go in, it will be able to remember that you are actually sorting by name or by date. Hope it was useful for you. We've also fixed quite a few bugs that people reported to us. Thanks again for joining us. Subscribe to our ChamSys YouTube channel and check out all the new videos that will be coming regularly. Thank you very much. Have a good day. Bye.